Good morning. How are you? I see more and more people slowly coming in, and which is fabulous. What an amazing, incredible, beautiful day. And as Senator Hannah Beth Jackson was saying, you know, it takes all of us in the role that we're in to do what we can to end violence wherever it happens. So whether you're in elected office, whether you work for a nonprofit, whether you're a dancer, whether you're a mom, whatever it is, or a dad, this is everything that we do in each way, and connect with each other is so, so important. It's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, right? And so a day of love, and what a perfect day to do something about speaking out about ending violence, because it's really about love. And I'm looking at the organizations behind me, or in front of me, behind you. Pacific Pride Foundation, the Santa Barbara Rape Crisis Center, World Dance, Planned Parenthood, and you need some coffee to keep the movement going. So you got Caribbean coffee there, and I know Domestic Violence Solutions is, I believe, coming as well. All organizations who do two things. It's all about love, and to thine own self be true. If we want to use that really cornerstone, that great Shakespearean quote about love, really about loving yourself and being true to yourself, and speaking out about it, and causing that revolution, and saying what's right is right, and when something's wrong, to speak out and say no, and turn that around, and turn that culture around, turn the laws around, make it so we all go towards a place where towards love as opposed to hate, as opposed to violence. And so I really appreciate the organizations that are here, because again, they do what they do amazingly well. And the city doesn't do those kind of programs, and shouldn't, right? The city is here making sure you got here okay, safely, because the streets were in relatively good repair, or the lights were working, or that when you got out of your home this morning, that you live in a building that is not unsafe in terms of building codes. I mean, there's basic stuff that you can have water to drink. We're working on that one. It's a beautiful day today, but you know, it does need to rain at some point. You know, basic things cities does, but there's still connections we can make with other organizations and within ourselves into creating a place of love. One thing we're doing right now, our Human Services Committee is interviewing, or just finished interviewing, I think over 60 organizations locally that are looking to create the services, the basic human services that we need for shelter, for food, for education, for domestic violence prevention. And all of the organizations I see there, except maybe the coffee, I think. We buy coffee. That's one way to do it. But in terms of getting grants from us, so the Santa Barbara City, we get funds from HUD, from Housing and Urban Development in Washington, D.C. It's called CDBG, Community Development Block Grants. But over the course of many, many years, that money that comes from Washington has trickled down to practically nothing. And a lot of cities around the country say, well, that's all we have and that's all we can contribute. The city of Santa Barbara for a very long time has had a different approach. We said, you know, we're going to supplement those funds with our own general funds, our own discretionary funds that can go to anything the city does. We put over $700,000 a year into human services grants each and every year. And that is partnerships with the nonprofit communities on basic human needs, basic designs for shelter, for food, for safety. And so many organizations I know you're connected with are part of that. So thank you for that. And that is one thing we can do. I know I see Elsa Granados, there she is, and the Santa Barbara Police Department with the Rape Crisis Center and others have had such an incredible partnership on sexual assault response teams with SART. And actually that's one of the funds that go. And it's with different organizations as a collaborative, so that when there's a domestic violence or sexual assault scenario, our police officers are trained to know how to be sensitive to the issue, and more importantly, how to interact with the survivor to be able to make sure that justice is served and to have the appropriate data and documentation, whatever is necessary, so that if there are charges made, that we can follow through and make sure that that person never experiences that kind of violence again. Many of you know Susan Rose, former county supervisor. She's been very much involved with an international organization, Human Rights Watch. But they've done a lot of things in this country too, and in particular worked about rape kits, and created with different law enforcement officers, including our own police chief, and working with our DA, Joyce Dudley, on making sure the backlog of all the rape kits are no longer backlogged. We've had years, we had rape kits that have been years on the shelf, and now finally there's a system in place statewide to make sure that the backlog is no longer there, so that DNA can be very, very helpful. And what happens, as you know, is that you find DNA evidence on one particular case, and it may link to others, especially if someone has a repetitive serial nature of attacking others. And so that data is so important, again, towards dealing with justice, to speaking out. And then finally, in terms of what's important to me in the city, and looking at what's important in our public safety, and doing what we can to be as culturally sensitive as possible when things occur. And Pacific Pride Foundation a few years ago and continues to have trainings with our police department on issues related to the LGBTQ community, so that when there's an incident between two men or two women, or there's a hate crime, that the training is there, but cultural sensitivity and competency is there, that there's a way to interact with someone that even if they may not want to speak out about their own sexual orientation to the public, they're able to talk about it to the law enforcement officer, knowing that, again, justice will be served. And again, and we're about to pin the first female lieutenant police officer in the city of Santa Barbara. I think that's really finally past due, but getting there, and really focusing on recruitment of a broad, diverse police force that can really interact with the community that we have. So, like I said, I think as mayor, it's such an honor to work with so many different organizations. And to me, people ask, what do you like most about being mayor? And I always like to say I'm the yenta, sort of like the matchmaker. And for Valentine's Day, that's kind of good, right? But again, to try to connect with all these different people and organizations and people with certain expertise who have a desire and the ability and the expertise to make something happen. But maybe it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and maybe you have some of the pieces, but not all of them. And being in the position I'm in, I have the opportunity and the honor to be able to put the jigsaw pieces together, and sometimes we create a beautiful picture. So with that, this is part of that. Dancing is the universal language of love in a lot of ways. It's a great message of hope, of revolution, and as that great quote goes, well-behaved women rarely make history. So let's make some history today. Thank you very much.